Welcome back to another episode of the Startup Therapy Podcast. This is Ryan Rutan, joined as always by my friend, the founder and CEO of startups.com, Wil Schroter. Wil, we're in the startup space. We are in the business of bigger, right? But at what point is bigger still better? And what if getting bigger just makes us a worse company?
Isn't that funny how heretical that is? Like in the startup
Yeah.
world, like you're like, we want to be as big as possible. Yeah, but will you be a shitty company? Probably.
Yeah. Probably, but we'll be a really big, shitty company. Yes.
And that's just like, wait, hold on, wait. Like you just said you're going to be a more terrible company. Yeah, but it'll be a bigger, more terrible
Big,
company.
really
Right?
big, terrible company.
And I think of how many companies out there have gotten bigger and they
Yeah.
just suck now. And I always think like, okay, let's use like more current examples, like Google. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for Google. Imagine who Google was as like a concentration of talent
Yeah.
in their heyday, right?
Smartest people in the world.
Right. Versus who they are. Actually, here's another good one. This is kind of a curveball. PayPal.
Oof.
PayPal, when it had Elon Musk, Reid Hoffman, Peter Thiel, like I mean the list of people on. I mean like even their B players ran public companies or started public companies like Yelp and stuff like that.
It was the startup version of Ocean's 11,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
that's a great way to
All
put it.
the stars were in it.
Yep,
Everyone you wanted was in that
yep.
show. Yep.
And think about PayPal now. And I mean, you got bought by eBay and then whatever, but like,
Do I have to?
yeah. Oh, by the way, fun fact. The CFO of PayPal at the time was 27 years old. I mean, they were all super young. It
Uh-huh.
was Roelof Botha, the managing partner of Sequoia. I mean, dude, their CFO was the managing partner
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
Sequoia. Come on, man, right?
Yeah. It feels slightly stacked.
As PayPal grew and became whatever behemoth it is today, is it a better company than it was back then? Which is where our story begins. As we scale, as we add stuff, is it making us a better company? I'm going to argue, and I think you're in the same boat, that it usually does not. And yet, ironically, for as much as we focus on growth, we have almost no focus whatsoever on quality. Like, are we a better company? Yeah, we're bigger. No. We're bigger. We're way shittier than we
Right.
used
More
to
money,
be.
more people, more problems. Wait, did I say the last part? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man. I always think of scale is the distortion knob on the amp that is your startup. Little bit rocks, too much and it gets way out of control. You
That's a
crank
great
it too
analogy.
far and you just end up with a bunch of noise.
Right.
And the quality in the tune has gone and you're just overrun with distortion at that point. And I think that it really does feel that way. So unless you're Spinal Tap, you should not turn that shit to 11. Okay, you should not do that.
Think of how old that reference is now. Like,
Do you know they're bringing it back? Do you know they're doing a new one?
of course they are. Yeah. Well, because we run out of new content. So, what's interesting to me here is like let's start from the premise
Sure.
that okay, as this thing gets bigger, is there a chance that it's going to get more shitty? Okay. In order to understand how and why that happens, we've got to kind of talk about these hidden costs of getting big, right? And I think when you're early in your career, like as a founder, you tend to think of these things as goals, right? Like we're going to add more staff,
Sure.
we're going to add more managers, we're going to add more
Right.
product.
These
we're
are all
gonna
the
add
things we
more,
want to do.
correct. You're dying to do. We're going to raise more capital. We're going to have more investors. We're going to have so much more, right? And the whole thought is more cash, more people, more product, more, more market share, like everything better. And no one ever stops to say, hey, maybe this will make things really terrible for us.
Right. Yeah.
And when it does, everyone's so shocked. They're like, wait, hold on. Like, we hired a bunch of people and now our culture is gone. And
Right.
we brought in a bunch of investors and now we basically just report to the board all the time. And we built all these products and now it's a nightmare to maintain all this stuff.
That's
And
exactly it.
we all of a sudden now have this like big, weird beast that we have to manage that has a
Yep.
billion problems we didn't have yesterday. And we worked so hard to get them.
Yeah. Every single layer that we add takes a toll,
Mhm.
right? Decisions slow down.
Yep.
Context becomes thinner because you don't get that osmotic effect of just being in the same rooms. It's what I call, it goes from being the lunch table to the committee decision.
Yep.
Right. So the context thins down, culture diffuses. You said that, right? But that's a huge one. And depending on how important culture was for you and I, it's super important. that can be the death of the startup, and not necessarily in the sense that like, oh, the startup's just going to be done now because of this, but it can be the death rattle for the founder. At least I remember this happening in my agency. This goes back to ancient history now, but in the early 2000s, when I was scaling my digital agency, the team grew to a size where things started to get really campy.
Yeah.
And the culture became really diffuse. There was the sales team, there was a design team, development team, and the executive team. And all of a sudden I realized that like there wasn't cohesion anymore. And I really didn't like it. It wasn't like I was walking through enemy camps, but it was damn near it. And
Yep.
I was the CEO and founder.
Yep.
Right. And so imagine how it felt for everybody else.
I remember on my 27th birthday, I remember walking into the office, and by this point we had like 700 people. And I remember walking into the office and being like, I don't want to walk through the front door. Not because it was my
Oof.
birthday. That part actually didn't bother me. But because I was like, I don't like where I work anymore. Right. I
Yep.
just stop right there. I worked
Yep.
so hard to get there, and I didn't want to be there. Here's
Yeah.
why. Because it sucked now, right? Like
Yep.
all the things that like kind of made it cool went away. We had so many people. Like I'd be on an elevator and I had no idea who a single person was on
Who
the
else
elevator,
was on
right?
there?
They knew who I
Yeah.
was, right? I still got like a
Yeah.
sore thumb, but I had no idea who anybody was. We had tons of meetings about upcoming meetings, right? A
Yeah.
meeting about an upcoming meeting that we're going to have, right? And I'm like, this is the lamest thing ever. Now I get it, but there's no version when we were going through this, transformation where I was like, it'd be really awesome if we get to a point where we're having meetings about meetings, or where I could go anywhere in the building and probably not know who a single
Yep.
person is. Like, can't wait to
Yep.
get here. Or my favorite, we have $10 million a month of payroll. I can't wait to have that liability every night when I go to bed. Right.
Yeah.
Like,
That feels good.
those levels of problems, I was never like, this is going to be awesome. Or how about this? You can appreciate from the agency world, a single client that if they change their mind, I have to fire everybody.
Yeah. So that's an interesting one. And because I think that's one of those things that a lot of startups chase, whether agency or anything, we chase big logos, right? Big
Sure.
customers, big
Yeah.
logo customers. What I realized at some point were that those were roadmap handcuffs,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Their money starts flowing in. My autonomy just started flowing out. We were just building what they wanted built. It started to dictate a lot of what we were doing, because from a financial standpoint, they were super important. So we got a lot bigger. We didn't get a lot better. We got better for them,
Yeah. Right.
but not necessarily for the rest of the customer base. Yeah, I think to me that was one of the ones that was least obvious, because I think some of this stuff, like decision-making speed, I think you understand as you get bigger, yeah, there's going to be more red tape, right?
Yeah.
Again, we go from lunch table speed to committee speed. The headcount creep, I think everybody sees that one coming, right? It's going to mean more managers, more meetings,
Well, you
less
don't push back on it.
doing
But
shit.
Ryan,
You
that's
don't.
the issue, man. No one
Yep.
says, hey, maybe we shouldn't do this because we'll be less efficient. They're like,
Yes.
well, we need people, so hire people, and that's all
Right.
there is to it.
Right. It's a foregone conclusion that this is just, it's a cost of doing business.
Right, exactly.
Is
The
it?
cost of doing business is one of the most empty, horrible pieces of advice that I've ever seen, right? In my appendage to that is according to whom,
Right.
right? That's just the cost of doing business.
Yeah.
According to which person that had no vision or no creativity that could have avoided this outcome, right?
Right. It's already
According to
stuck on the
them,
other side of it and trying to justify it now.
right.
Yeah.
Instead of making it this like universal axiom, I always like to point it at a person specifically and say, according to them, right, in what they know,
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
think that's the best decision. When you humanize, you're like, well, fuck, what the hell do they know? Right?
Yeah.
You're
What
like,
is
wait, this is such a good advice. Anyway,
it sounds
the,
nice, but so
the
when we
other one
think
that,
through some of these things, right? So we've
yeah,
talked about decision-making speed, the bigger customers. And again, the point I was trying to make there was not that any of them are justified, but that some of them were sort of easier to see that they were going to cause changes.
yep,
Right. To me at the time, it was such a surprise, like the big logo, right? When I brought on big national insurance company, all of a sudden, like, they were dictating a lot of. I basically had a boss at that point. Didn't
well, I was
realize
just gonna
that,
say the
but I
same thing
basically had
about
a boss at that
investors,
point.
right? Same
Um,
concept.
so it's a very similar thing, right? Like when money comes in, we celebrate the wire, but we forget that there's strings attached, right?
Right,
Like, so
right.
all of a sudden those things change. So if you go back in time and think about some of these things, what victory, right? Victory, I'm air quoting here for everybody that's just listening and not watching. What victory, big customer, big funding rounds, big hiring, whatever it was, quietly cost you the most freedom?
Honestly, it was fundraising. And I remember the first time I got a call from an investor where I knew the purpose of the call wasn't positive, that's when it really resonated with me.
Yeah.
That's when I was like, "Oh, shit. I just hired a boss."
Yeah.
And I celebrated it. And it's exactly what I was trying to avoid.
Yeah.
And because I wanted to be bigger, which, again, I understood the goal. I created this new cost that I didn't really appreciate. And so I remember seeing it on my phone. I was seeing this person calling in and being like, they're about to give me some shit that I
Yeah.
wouldn't have gotten 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Right. And here we go. And I was like, man, the hell did I even sign up for this? And the funny thing is I didn't even need the money. Like that was the funny thing. Not because we were so wealthy, because the amount of money we were raising wasn't that significant. And the reality is we only did it because someone offered to invest, not because we actually needed the money. And I was like, man, I was so enamored with the idea that someone was validating me that it didn't
Yeah.
occur to me like that I shouldn't even be doing this.
Yeah. Well, we get enamored. It can feel like a good signal. And I think a lot of founders fall into this trap, both in terms of funding and in terms of headcount. People love to toss around. It's funny. I've started playing this little game where people be like, yeah, and we just grew to 150 people. And I'm kind about it, but the first thing I always say is like, condolences. How you feeling? Right. Like, not what they're expecting, right? Because they're
Yeah,
like,
right,
this
right.
is a sign of growth. This is a sign of all these good things. And they're not tracking the other side of it. I think for me, I noticed a couple red flags that started to be indicators of these things, the canaries in the coal mine, if you will. One was like the minute I realized that we need to have a meeting to decide if we need a meeting, right? That's a great one, right? All of a sudden you're like, I think we might be bigger than we need to be if we have to have a meeting about a meeting. The minute I see anybody in our team spending more time updating dashboards
Yeah,
than
right.
than than customers, it's a huge one. The minute I'm learning about product changes or like really meaningful stuff within the company on a slide, not in the hallway, not in Slack, not just through like normal course of conversation. These are all things that are just indicators to me that we might be a little too big for our britches at this point.
I think what was really telling for me, this is around the staff size, is when we let someone go and we didn't replace them and absolutely nothing happened. Right. And it was one of those things when
Yeah,
the person is there, and this could apply to lots of companies. When the person is there and they're doing their job, we all just assume because they're still there and they're still showing up for work and they're
yeah,
engaging with everybody, that work must still need to be done by, a full-time person, whatever.
yeah, yeah.
And then they leave and no one backfills them and no one notices.
Nothing
And you're
happened.
like, what the
Right.
hell, man?
How
And
long
mind you,
have we been playing without a left back? I don't know. We're still winning games. Right?
right. So I think let's start with this. So the premise here being that we've got all of these hidden costs. We're scrambling to incur these costs,
Yep.
but no one stops and says, should we? Now there's another side to this, which is I don't think I could name 10% of founders right now, Ryan, that could tell me right off the top of their head, tell me what makes your company better, not bigger, right? People say, oh, more staff, more revenue, whatever. What
Yep.
makes your company better?
Yeah, I
It
think
is
the definition around
shocking,
that is going to be soft for just about everybody we know.
unbelievable. If you asked us, we've even podcasted about this. My first answer is freedom. That's what makes us better. The more
Yeah, yeah.
freedom we get at startups.com, the better a company we are. Right. And
Yes.
it's been wild to watch how that manifests, Ryan, because like through this company, like in the time that you and I have been building together and doing things together, we've become parents. And so,
Yes.
the freedom to be parents has been paramount for us. But we've also had in our culture, as we've created a remote culture, I think we've created more freedom for our staff, right?
100%.
Like more
I don't think
independence,
anybody would
like
disagree with
et
that.
cetera.
Yep.
And I think we take it for granted. But when folks come to work here and they're like, wait, I'm on my own schedule. Yeah, just check in,
Yeah.
do your job, right?
Hmm. Right.
Right. What I'm saying is like for us, that's better. But I think when people come from another culture and they come here and see how important freedom was to us, independence was to us, and they get to enjoy what that means, their heads explode. They're like,
Yeah, yeah.
"Holy shit. Like this is incredible." But my point is it's because we invested in better. It's because we said freedom is better for us, so we
Yeah.
do more things that make us more free, ergo no investors.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think that takes a very different level of introspection and planning and conversation because we typically plan for bigger with a spreadsheet. right? Like there's some
Right.
version of a model that we're going to be like, here's how we're going to scale this, we're going to do this. But you can't really plan for better in the same way, right? Better takes a narrative, better takes some honesty, better takes time and a different level of introspection and discussion, I think. And I think that's tough.
You know, something that's really funny about everything we talk about here is that none of it is new. Everything you're dealing with right now has been done 1,000 times before you, which means the answer already exists, you may just not know it, but that's okay. That's kind of what we're here to do. We talk about this stuff on the show, but we actually solve these problems all day long at groups.startups.com. So if any of this sounds familiar, stop guessing about what to do. Let us just give you the answers to the test and be done with it.
Ryan, you know what it took for me? Guilt was my issue. It took me being willing to be guilty.
Yeah.
And here's how that manifested. When I think about, hey, this company needs to grow, I am instantly, this is my default programming, saying it should grow at any cost to me. At any cost to me, right? So going back to the agency days, and I'm sure you dealt with this too, it was like, oh, we need to sign a client and I need to be halfway across the country all the time. At the time,
Yep.
you and I were single, so it didn't
Yep.
matter, right? But now with kids,
Yeah.
basically what we're saying is if I fly across the country to sign that client, and I know I'm going to have to be on site, whatever, I'm going to see less of my children. My work guilt would say, yep, sounds right.
For the record, guilt is a terrible chief operating officer, right? You never want to hire guilt as the chief operating officer, but
Right.
Like it is the default operating officer, right? That's the problem.
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
And I would look at it and I would say, oh, again, this is, former me, who also didn't have kids at the time. I would have been like, oh, well, I guess we need to grow. I guess we need this client. So I guess
Yeah.
I'll just see less of my kid. Now,
Yeah.
I'm saying that specifically, back then as the founder and CEO of that company. But I'm also saying it for everybody that works with me.
Right.
Right? It's like, hey, we got this new account and everybody's high-fiving. And like, imagine if I just said this straight up. We just signed on this new account that will all of a sudden create a liability on payroll where we'll be like disproportionately indebted to
Yeah.
that one particular client.
Yeah.
All of you can look at your kids and your spouses and chalk off about 30% of the quality time you've ever spent with them. We'll also be increasing everybody's stress level and likely not compensating you for any of it. Imagine that.
Not to worry.
Right?
We've pre-ordered birthday and Christmas gifts for your children and your wives because you won't be seeing them. So it's okay.
But that's not the message, right? The narrative
Right.
is we sign this big client, bigger, better, right?
Yeah.
But the cost to everybody involved is absolutely something that everybody has to bear, including us as the founders.
Yeah.
But we never really talk about it.
We don't.
And it's a mess.
It is. But and I think there's a reason for it. And I think that's because the cost of growth can show up on the P&L.
Yeah.
Right. If we fail to do things, to become bigger, to stop growing, to make those decisions, to take on that big client, the cost of growth it does get reflected in the P&L. The cost of regret does not, but it sure as shit compounds. Right. And so as I think that's the trade-off that we make, we go like, yeah, but we only need to grow a little bit more. And once we're done with that, then we'll go back to seeing our family. Then we'll go back to, right. And so I think that, we've talked about this before, Will, but one of the things that we provide on this podcast is permission. And so, here's me, probably you as well, granting people permission to optimize for founder life design on purpose, right?
Yeah, that's
and
the whole
for the rest
point of
of
you
your
starting
team.
a startup. Yeah.
Yeah. It's supposed to be, right? And yet it so often is not the way it goes.
It's easily lost. That's the whole point, right?
Yep.
And so we're sitting here going, here's what would make us bigger, more staff, more office, more whatever, right? More capital, whatever. At which point we say, well, what would make this company better for the people who actually work here? Incidentally, none of those things. None of those things that we're about to do and kill ourselves to do will actually make things better for anyone involved. Okay.
Yep.
So for example, I'm like, hey, we're going to add 100 people. Okay. Like I get it. In the P&L, having been a CFO for 25 years, I understand exactly how that benefits the company. Okay. But if you're the founder, if you're the people that are responsible for making payroll for all of these people, your life just got 100 times worse. There's no version of adding 100 people where your life gets better. You have 100 new problems, that you've just added. You've got a massive amount of monthly liability in kind of, funding all of that. Also, by the way, if you're a funded startup that's swinging vine to vine on funding rounds, you are well aware of this
Yep.
problem. Okay. And then the other issue is that now all of the reporting and all the things that you have to do in order to operate a company are far more complex. You just jumped in mud and you're trying to sprint. And you're thinking to yourself, this is going to be awesome. No, it's not. It's actually not. Then you're surprised when it's not awesome, right? Like, oh my God, this is so shitty. Yeah, no kidding. You didn't optimize for better.
Yeah, but again, I think that goes back to just making sure that we got a clear definition of what that actually is, right? And you
Right.
talked about some of them, and I think there are some that are kind of non-negotiables. I think people understand it, but they don't all have to be. So I want to be careful here, because a lot of the stuff that we've talked about is like freedom and time, and yes, but better is also things like profitability,
Oh yeah,
high net
versus
promoter
going under.
score,
Yeah, of course, right?
right?
Like,
All those things. So this isn't just about sacrificing, because better doesn't just mean easier or convenient or nice to run, right? It means truly a better business,
right.
right? And so I think I'm forming a framework in my head here, and I'm trying to, okay, it's BBB, better before bigger. So let's go. So here's how it works. I want to define a couple of non-negotiables, like whatever those are. Like pick 2 or 3 that that these are the things. Like it's 2 days without meetings, greater than 20% EBITDA, and maintaining company culture. That last one I don't love, because that's harder to see and kind of harder to manage. But then anytime we're making a decision, right? Does this hire, does this customer, does it increase or decrease those things?
Yeah, here's a great example. Ryan, let's say you added 50 people to the marketing team.
Yeah.
Do you like your job more? Because you're not going to do marketing anymore.
How many of them
You're
play
gonna do
soccer
managing.
and are blue belts or higher in jujitsu?
Right,
Because that
exactly.
will significantly change my answer, because at 50 people, I can get almost a mini league going at that point. That'd be fantastic. Other than that, I would hate it.
In which case, there would be so much more efficient ways to do that.
Yeah. I could just go
Literally
to
anything.
soccer fields that are a mile north of here, probably be an easier thing to do.
Exactly. But play that out. Like, we're saying, hey, we're going to add more people. Do any of us want the job that comes with adding all those people? Maybe. Or maybe you really, really enjoy managing and not doing any work. Now, people hear that. They're like, oh, how dare you say that? Managing is work. It is. Okay. But it's a different work, right? One of the things, and again, not everybody understands kind of the composition or how we operate at startups.com. But one of the core tenets we've had at this business since day one is we say that every general carries a gun, right?
Yes.
And it has nothing to do with our free toting gun rights.
Nope.
What it means is that everyone goes to war here, right? Like,
Yep.
nobody sits back and just like kind of calls shots.
There is no
Everybody's in the
balcony.
mix.
There's only dance floor.
Correct. Everybody is in the mix, right? Everybody's on the front lines. And we say that because it's what we enjoy, right?
Yeah.
Like, I sit down every Monday and I try to come up with whatever the topic is going to be for this, right? You know, for these shows and our content and stuff like that. And I sit down and I write all the words, right?
Yep.
Now, other companies eventually have like copywriters that do that, or they outsource those things or whatever.
Yeah.
And, as the CEO, there's a ton of things that I do that normally people give to someone else.
Right.
I'm also our CFO. I literally do our finances, right? Like, a lot of people wouldn't think that. Oh, you hire that out. I enjoy that work. I don't want it taken from me.
And I think it goes beyond that. So the enjoyment part of it, 100%. And I'm glad for that. But I think the other side of that is that when we start to scale without soul, it's just size, and then it eventually just falls apart. This is where the quality starts to flag, right? So yeah, we could have sourced that out to somebody else, but somebody who hasn't lived as a founder across 30 years and 9 startups, they're not going to write the same content that you write. We're not going to have the same podcast that we have.
Right.
And
right.
so that's, while it seems like a funny little example of sitting down and writing an article on Monday, it's a pure encapsulation of exactly what we're talking about here, right?
Right.
The minute that scales and we go for efficiency over efficacy, one of my favorite things to talk about in all of startup land, we start to lose, right? We've now created a very efficient way to make something that maybe doesn't suck, but it's not as awesome as it was. And that's the path to shitty. And I don't want to be on the path to shitty.
I agree. Let's build on that. If there's a version of startups.com that's 10 times bigger, revenue, et cetera, but it comes at the cost of all the things that we love, our freedom, our culture, whatever. I just don't want to work at that company.
Right.
And we've had this conversation because I have worked at that company before,
Yeah.
right?
So have I.
And I just didn't like it. And again, there was a version where I hit kind of a crossroads in my life and my career. This is again my late 20s as that company was growing.
Yep.
And it was like I can stop here, like chapter save point, right? And go do something else that I actually enjoy, or I can stay here and we're going to go public and we're going to go run a company and it's going to be a multi-billion-dollar company. And I chose to start from scratch, which a lot
Yeah.
of people would not choose to do. A
Right,
lot of
right,
people would
right.
be like, no, you have something successful, you just go do that. And at a young age, the tender age of 27, I raised my hand and said, but I'm not having fun.
Yeah.
Right now, that was an expensive decision. I did okay, but I could have done a lot more okay, had I, stuck with the IPO. But I want to point this out. I chose quality. I chose better. Yes, this is cool. I'm proud of what we've done, but I'm out. And I went and go did something else. And I was very proud of that decision. I've never looked back a single day. This is like 25 years ago. I've
Yeah.
never looked back a single day and said, man, I really wish I went
Should have
for,
stuck with that. Yeah.
not even once, like not even
Stuck being the
1%.
operative word, right?
And my wife and I talk about it. And, Sarah's so pragmatic. And even she is like, I know you so well. There is no version where you would have survived. Your mental state would have never
Right.
survived in being part of Big Corp, right? Like me on a quarterly earnings call with analysts talking about the state of the healthcare advertising market at scale. Like literally, you
Trying
couldn't
to
have shot
squeeze
me
an
faster.
80s movie reference into that gets harder every year.
It has
Like,
not gone well. But again, and again, I'm proud of that business, but at the same time, I wanted no part of it. It literally like we went the growth path, and I looked at that and I said, man, I don't enjoy that. I like working in small, nimble teams. I like working in the mix on products. I don't like, just telling other people how to build products. Like I want to
yep.
be in there. You've known me for a long time. You know that when it comes to the product, the stuff that you see on startups.com, I probably wrote the copy. I probably designed that landing page. I
Yep.
probably I'm very in the mix.
You're in it. Yep.
Yeah. And I say that and I'm very proud of that. And I know that there's a version where it's holding us back from maybe getting bigger, maybe. And I don't care. And I don't mean that like in a callous way. I mean
No.
because I
It,
believe we've optimized for quality.
quality. Exactly that. Right. So we're trying to, because you can make things louder, right? We're trying to go less noise, more signal. We're trying to not, grow talent volume, but trying to increase talent density. And we're looking at the various scaling levers, because I think there you can just add more and more and more and more customers, right? But you can also do things like raise pricing. You can narrow your ICP, right? It was counterintuitive, but like you start to focus in more and you start to move faster within that ICP. You can deepen product for core users, which is very different than saying, let's add one more feature, let's add this, let's go broader and broader and broader, so we start to soak up more and more of the vanilla market.
Right.
Because to some degree, saying no is a growth strategy, right? When we
Yeah, I
trim
agree.
SKUs, cut features, kill the almost customers, and really just focus on where we can drive the most quality, that is growth. And that's not just growth, but it's the type of growth that you won't suffer from.
Yeah, I'm actually, again, if I take a look at the life path, if you will, of startups.com, I'm very proud of a lot of the decisions we've made when we've stuck to our guns. We've had
Yeah.
many opportunities where we could have shifted course and grown differently. We could have added staff differently. We could have raised capital differently, et cetera. And I think about how many of those things we are not beholden to.
Yeah.
Even simple things like we never really created any debt for the company, right? It's just something we didn't want hanging over our head, right? We don't have a single debt payment to service. That's powerful, right? I mean, that is a decision, right? Of quality of life. Yes, we could get bigger if we took on a whole bunch of debt or capital, et cetera. And I thought, you know what? We could just don't want it. Like it would not make our lives better. And I'm proud of standing firm on those decisions. And I got to tell you what, if I look back, like on 30 years of building companies, Ryan, I can't think of a single case where I optimized for quality of life, like quality of life in a lot of ways, right? And I regretted it. I never looked back and said like,
Yeah.
oh shit, I really wish I'd put myself in a more leveraged position ever.
I think this is one of those things where this sounds like kind of a lofty conversation, like this very high strategery. I want to point out that it's not, right? The reason that we have been able to maintain this Yes, there were some very big decisions that were made, or things that we said, big things that we said no to, but it was as much a collection of the small things, because I think that's, again, it's death by a thousand cuts. You let one little thing go, another little thing go, another little thing go. Pretty soon you've got a metric ton of those little things that are now weighing you down. And so it was simple little stuff. It's saying no to a customer category, right? It's going to our sales team and saying, hey, going forward, when clients present this way, they're not great fits for what we're doing, right? They're not going to get what they want from us. We're not going to be able to satisfy them. It's going to end poorly. Let's say no to that, right? And of course, the sales team's going to come back and say, but that's revenue. And we're going to go, yeah, but it costs us more than it makes us. And so it's little decisions like that, which seem, not that they're inconsequential, but these aren't things like, we're going to completely change company culture, or we are going to go raise funds, or we're going to not raise funds, which are big, big, big decisions, right? Something as small as saying, we're going to say no to this particular type of client in the future. Doesn't seem that big, but these are the little decisions that stack up into quality over just pure size and keep founders sane and happy through the process.
It snowballs both directions. It snowballs,
Sure
like you're saying, when you make a decision like that goes against your values or your goals, or what makes you better. And it snowballs when you're willing to pony up and say,
Yep.
fuck it. I understand this
Yeah.
would make us bigger in some way, and maybe more money, but I just don't want to do it. Great example. For those of you that have been listening to this show for a very long time, Ryan, how many episodes do we have? At least 300.
This is we are currently recording 318 or 19.
Damn. Okay, so the fact that I don't even know is a hell of a
Yeah.
lot of episodes. Fun fact for everybody: how many guests have we had on this show? How many guests have we?
I think 2.
Okay, so if we
I was
go
only here
way
for
back
one
in
of
the
them. We
archives,
brought in a guest while I was out once, and then I've never left again.
yeah. So in the early days, and this was good advice. It was sound advice. People would say to us, in order to make your show bigger, you need to have guests. You got to have
Yep,
guests,
gotta have
right?
guests.
And they're right. It's
Yeah.
entirely true,
It's
right?
a massive growth
So-
strategy for podcasts.
So I remember years ago in the early days, we brought on Steve Blank. Remember when we
Yep.
had Steve on? Right? Very well-known entrepreneur.
I remember. Yes.
Yeah. And Steve had a show where he let us talk from time to time. And we were allowed to chime in on Steve's show that
Yes.
that we hosted.
Yep.
And it went horribly. Right? And horribly.
The most words I said in that
was
was in the outro that I recorded separately after the episode was over. That was the most I talked in the entire
yeah. And we had great guests. I remember we had Sam Parr, right? Sam's
Yeah.
actually gone on to create a wildly successful podcasting career. And we got on, and Sam's a great guy, and clearly he's a great guest. But it didn't feel like our show, right? It felt like a guest on someone else's show. And so we made a decision 300 episodes ago, right, that we weren't going to have guests. And I'm sure it cost us a gazillion views and followers, etc. But guess what? We don't like that show.
We don't
like a show.
We like this show a
like
lot.
somebody just, what's that?
So we like this show a lot.
We like this show a lot. Like the reason this show doesn't have guests. And by the way, Ryan, how many emails do we get per day of people pitching a guest? We might get more
Between
email pitches
5 and 7
for our show
Yeah.
than we even have listeners.
Yeah.
Right? It's unbelievable.
They all pretend that they listen to the podcast though, because they'll
actually, maybe
throw
those
in
are
that
all our
AI
listeners.
generated
All try to-
reference about whatever. I love it when those go wrong too. Right? The episode you guys did talking about the price of insulin, and you're like, we've never done an episode talking about the price.
Yeah, I was like, sure, I'd love to listen, hear about
Yeah.
that episode. Anyway, the point is, we made a decision for quality. The quality, this is the show that Ryan and I want to do. What you're hearing, our show has no strategy to it. And when I say that, I'm being callous. It's not that we don't think that founders will listen to what we do and maybe you want to use startups.com that has, some commercial purpose. If that's all we were optimizing for, if we were going purely for growth, this would be a way different podcast, right? The podcast is what it is because what Ryan and I enjoy doing. We just enjoy getting on here and just bullshitting about whatever topic.
And we know it's useful to founders. We know it's helpful to founders, right? Is it the fastest moving marketing engine? No, but that's not what we tried to build. We tried to build something that would be intimate and useful for founders, and that was all.
Exactly. And I think that leverage that we have over our own decisions, where we say, yes, this could be bigger, but it's not us. It would reduce our quality. Yes, we could scale faster if we raised a whole bunch of money, but we wouldn't want to wake up in the morning and have to worry about the phone call that we're getting, right? Like there's a lot of things we could do. And I'm not saying we hate growth. We love growth, but we love growth on our own terms. And I think for a lot of people that are out there, when they're thinking about getting bigger, it's not about getting bigger. It's about getting better. And getting better is about sticking to what your terms are and making that decision every single day. That the most important thing is what's going to make you the best company possible and a better person and founder, and sticking to that the entire way and saying, this is who we are, this is what we do, and making no exceptions ever.
Overthinking your startup because you're going it alone? You don't have to, and honestly, you shouldn't, because instead, you can learn directly from peers who've been in your shoes. Connect with bootstrapped founders and the advisors helping them win in the Startups.com community. Check out the Startups.com community at www.startups.com to see if it's for you. Could be just the thing you need. I hope to see you inside.